Welcome, everyone, to another adventure into reality. I'm joined by David Ellis, and Malia will be here in just one moment. She's having a little bit of technical difficulties. Welcome, David. How you doing?
How are you, Andrew?
I am doing great. I'm going to have a quick little speech here about the nature of truth. Okay. We live in the world that is most strange and unusual of times. 3 billion people on lockdown. Yet many people feel like everything is normal until the day it becomes self-evident that it isn't normal. The day the world will have to accept that something is becoming more self-evident in truth. The world can no longer ridicule the foretellers or violently oppose those who spoke about being prepared. Now that the truth is somewhat self-evident, David and I, and those people we bring to choose on these shows, choose to speak about these strange and unusual times as foretellers and preparers. Just because the truth is self-evident does not mean those who ridicule and violently oppose it will not ratchet down their propaganda. What it means is they are still in states of fear that will consume them. Do not get lost in others' self-consumption of their own fears. It is their journey to heal from their fears. You cannot save them from themselves. You do not have to live in fear. As long as you live in fear, you have already lost the game to surviving the confusion and orchestrated chaos now and to come. Today, tomorrow, and the day after, and the weeks and months to come are your responsibility to yourself to stay grounded and stay in balance. As information tries to overload you, your senses and your sense of security and well-being, learn and relearn the art of self-responsibility. The global narrative will have no other choice but to go into information overdrive. The more excess information you consume, the more you will be consumed with information that will not aid or benefit your journey into being confident in your own personal growth at a time where the outside world will say conform and give away your power to be you. You and only you can make effective choices about how these times of trials and tribulations will affect you. You and only you will determine how well you live, love, and learn through the ever-changing stories and narratives and ideologies that are present as pieces to the truth you adhere to with your own belief and what placebo belief you have. The greatest enemy to truth is not often the lie, deliberate, contrived, and dishonest, but the myth, persistent, persuasive, and unrealistic. Truth is stranger than fiction, but it is because fiction is not obliged to stick to possibilities. Fiction is obliged to stick to possibilities. Truth isn't. You can be standing right in front of the truth and not necessarily see it, and people only get it when they're ready to get it. Truth can hardly be accepted to adapt itself to the crooked policy and wily sinuosities of worldly affairs. For truth, like light, travels in straight lines. Today is the day we all choose to understand the many layers of truth present in our world. Truth, David, it comes in many forms, persistent, pervasive, and unrealistic, and yet it is staring in front of us right now, many different forms of truth.
Yes, there's something else I would like to add to what you just said. The truth could be right in front of you and you can't see it.
That's right.
Okay. So a lot of people are experiencing large amounts of truth in society right now. All the rights and freedoms that they thought they had, can be taken away immediately. Right. So you're learning something. The lessons from COVID-19 should at least teach people, I would think. But that would be a hopeful thing. It would be.
That's right.
There's a lot of lessons to be learned. I'm not quite sure people are understanding the lessons. So the truth for a lot of people is that they can't be by themselves.
That's right. No structure in the world is ever obligated to tell you the truth.
Correct.
No one in this world is obligated to match your version of the truth. Truth is a resonance frequency via effort, investigation, will, and self-discovery.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and for some people, self-discovery is a completely different concept.
Yeah, totally alien to them because they're always seeking external validation for their truths.
That is correct. That is very correct.
So let's talk some of the medical bill of rights. In the background, you and I have been talking about how to prepare people for some of the hard truths about the medical industry they are not ready for.
Oh no, this is going to be a difficult pill to swallow. I think this broadcast is going to be, there are going to be a lot of truth bombs there, and there's going to be a lot of difficult pills that people have to swallow. So, for those of you who don't know what the Patient Bill of Rights is, it's a document that you sign every time that you committed to a healthcare facility. You wouldn't have read it because how many people actually read the stuff that they sign anymore? So what I'm going to do is probably read it to you, give you the essential concepts. The Patient Bill of Rights, you can find it on Wikipedia. You can find it anywhere you, at any source. So let me give you a breakdown of what they are. You have the right as a patient to information, okay? Which means every patient has the right to know what the illness that they are suffering from is, the possible causes and the status of his diagnosis and the prognosis. Diagnosis, this is what's wrong with you. Prognosis, this was what will most likely happen to you. The right to records and reports, so that every healthcare professional must keep accurate reports and records, because it is important that you guys actually know what's wrong with you in the past, so that you can make a projection as to what's going to happen in the future. If you switch healthcare professionals, you need your reports and your records. It doesn't matter who the healthcare professional is. And I'm talking about everyone in this chat who is either a therapist or whatever else. Rights, the right to emergency care. Okay, so that falls under the duty of care, and it's actually a tort if you are refused emergency care. For those of you who don't know what a tort is, it's a civil wrongdoing. Okay, so there's something called a duty of care, which every healthcare professional has. So if you should drop down in front of the hospital and say, well, you're not paying, so I'm sorry, you're going to have to die on the side of the road, that's going to be a problem for them, legally speaking. A right to informed consent, which means that if it is that you want to draw blood from me, I have the right to tell you, no. I also have the right to tell you, please go ahead. Informed consent means that I know what you're doing it for, you have told me, and I consent to let you do any kind of intervention to my body or my person or my mind, as the case may be. The right to confidentiality, human dignity, and privacy. So confidentiality is big. A lot of professionals don't understand that. There are exceptions to the confidentiality rule in most jurisdictions. I'm here to give you the legal and the psychological side. Malia will be dealing with the medical side when she gets in here. The right to confidentiality means that what I say to my healthcare professional should not go to anyone else. I hear horror stories every day on this concept, okay? Human dignity and privacy. So basically, if I am treating you in a hospital, I will not ask you to take your clothes off with other people in the ward watching. So if this is happening to you or it has happened to you, you need to know that that is illegal, right? The right to a second opinion. If my doctor says I'm going to die in 6 months, yeah, you might want to get a second opinion, okay? The right to transparency in rates and care, according to prescribed rates or wherever relevant. If this operation costs $4,000, I need to know that it costs $4,000 and budget accordingly. Don't give me any hidden costs that make the $4,000 $1 million. This has been happening all over the place, Andrew, and we're going to get into this in the meat of this later on, okay? The right to non-discrimination. The white person gets the lollipop and the black person doesn't. Not fair. That's self-explanatory. I want to just stop here. Let's go back to the first point. Right to non-discrimination. If there are 6 ventilators and one person who is 65 years old appears at 8 o'clock in the morning, and somebody who's 30 years old appears at 12 o'clock in the evening, Who should get the ventilator? Think about that as I continue. Okay, the right to non-discrimination, the right to safety and quality of care according to standards, which means any healthcare facility, any therapist, any doctor is supposed to be continually trying to improve the quality of the care that they give you. The care should be the same from one person to another person. So, as an example, if you haven't slept all night and you've been drinking, please don't cut anyone open and try to remove, I don't know, a liver or a kidney. Okay? The right to choose alternative treatments options. Now, this is a big one. Once again, the right to choose alternative treatment options if available. If available. Okay? So that doesn't say alternative medical treatment options. It doesn't say that. It says alternative treatments. I always throw this in medical professionals' faces whenever I speak to them, because they always discourage their clients to pursue anything outside the medical realm. But the patient bill of rights says the right to choose alternative treatment options if available. The patient has the right to ask and the right to information. Okay. Right to proper referral and transfer, which is free from perverse commercial influences. The right to proper referral and transfer, which is free from perverse commercial influences, meaning that I should be able to refer you to a doctor not based on the fact that that doctor gives me a kickback. I should be able to refer you to that doctor on the basis of that doctor is the best person for you.
And the vast majority of cancers are full-on kickbacks. Every doctor that provides any form of chemotherapy gets a $200,000 bonus for prescribing the chemo.
Also, I am supposed to prescribe medication to you that is the best medication for you, and not because a pharmaceutical company is subsidizing my practice. This has been a serious problem in law. Now, here's the truth of the matter, and I don't want to get into them. I just want to get through this list. The truth of the matter is that when you go to medical school, you have a huge debt to pay. And some doctors pay that debt by getting kickbacks from commercial entities such as pharmaceutical companies. You guys need to be vigilant, and you all need to be a little bit more educated about your own healthcare.
Mm-hmm. Okay? And some big pharma companies buy the debt of the doctors and own them.
Okay. The right to this was my place. The right to protection for patients involved in clinical trials. We are going to get all into clinical trials in this episode, because clinical trials are like, there's a new drug, I need to test it, and it's gone past the animal stage of testing, it's now into humans testing. So you need to be very careful how you test things on people. Okay, right to protection of participants involved in biomedical and health research, the right to protection. Meaning, if something is being tested, if something is being developed, you need to take care that your candidates are well taken care of, okay? The right to take discharge of a patient or receive the body of a deceased from the hospital. So if my family members died, you have that body for a certain amount of time. Please release the body to me so that I can give them a decent burial. The right to patient education, that has been breached in every jurisdiction that I have been in. The right to patient education. Please tell me about my illness. When I sit down in your office and you tell me I have a hematoma, you need to tell me what a hematoma is, what it means to me, etc. Like that. Not, you don't just tell me that stuff and tell me, well, you have a hematoma, I'm giving you this medication, get out of my office, pay the receptionist. That has been happening all over. And they say, we can't do that because we have lots of patients. But it's in the patient bill of rights. The patient has a right to education. Okay? The right to be heard and seek redressal. The right to be heard and seek redressal. If your healthcare professional messes up, you have the right to be heard, right? Meaning that you should be able to take them to court and so on. But we're going to get into a lot of stuff here. And this should really be split into 2 broadcasts, because I don't think we're going to cover all of this, because we're going to go through every code that governs this area of practice. I needed to let you guys know this because we're in COVID-19 times, and some of you may catch it, and you may be in hospital, so you may need to know the Patient Bill of Rights. Okay? Go find it and study it after this broadcast. Back to you, Andrew.
So, David, in one of our back conversations we had before we started the show, we talked about some of the layered protections that the medical industry is using to protect themselves and immunize themselves. And some of it's some pretty draconian stuff that essentially nullifies the capacity for people to get reciprocity or to get payback from the medical communities. And one of them was layered mediation in the Ninth District. I want you to touch on that real quick and kind of let people understand some of the really underhanded things some of the medical communities are doing now.
Okay.
This is not doctors. These are administrators of medical corporations. Let's separate the doctors from the people that create these things.
Okay. Oh, wow. Where do we start? My background, my area of study was in the management of healthcare systems. So let's start this conversation. If you sign a document for an operation in certain facilities, there's a layered level of protection that the facilities have. So let's say you sign this contract to let someone operate on you, and I don't know, they leave a utensil inside of you, it ruptures your liver or ruptures a kidney, you lose a kidney as a result of it. Let me tell you what the layers of protection there are in these documents. Okay, the first layer of protection is something called forced mediation. So you are required, you can't go to the court directly, you are required to go to mediation. For those of you who don't know what mediation is, it's basically a third party comes into the picture and tries to negotiate a settlement between you and the facility. You don't go to court, first of all. Here's the problem with that. Who chooses the mediator? Read your documents, please. I can't stress this enough for your audience who's listening. When you are given any contract to sign, anyone, it doesn't matter. Any contract, read the contract meticulously. You don't know what you're signing away. Okay, now here's the problem. The facility will be the chooser of the mediation and also the jurisdiction in where the mediation is going to occur. So if it is that I write in the contract that mediation will occur in Italy, then you need to find yourself in Italy. Okay, then that's the first layer of protection. The second layer of protection is if mediation fails, then you go to arbitration. There's a question in the chat room. Mediation is non-binding. So when it doesn't work out and you say, no, I'm not accepting this deal that the mediators come up with, then it moves to arbitration. Arbitration is when a third party makes a decision based on your case. Here's the thing. The arbitrator is going to be chosen by the facility once again. The place where the arbitration happens is going to be chosen by the facility. It's not going to be chosen by you, right? Here's the other problem with that. The arbitration process can take a long time, especially if they call for a tribunal. And if in your contract it states that the arbitration process has to be shouldered, the cost for arbitration has to be shouldered by yourself and the facility, you know they're going to call for a tribunal. That's 3 arbitrators at minimum, okay, to hear your case. There are 3 arbitrators at minimum. So you sit there and you're watching 3 arbitrators who you are paying for make a decision on your case, and the arbitrators have been chosen by the facility that wronged you in the first place. Failing that, there is an issue that that slips into a court process. But let me explain to you, to challenge an arbitral decision based on 3 arbitrators was a no-win situation. You will lose that case. A rare exception that you're going to be winning that case. Okay, these are the layers of protection. Go ahead.
So let me pop in here real quick. So now that you're setting up, how do people reject it? Let's say you're at a doctor, you're going to go have a thing. can you negotiate that contract? Or is it you have to, because that's a forced acceptance. The doctor has you. You need this emergency surgery now. Sign away your rights.
Yeah, well, nobody said that life is fair, Andrew.
I know that. But isn't what you're just saying, doesn't that oppose the Hippocratic Oath and the Patient Bill of Rights, just creating a document that's layered like that?
Hippocratic Oath. How many people do you think that's listening to this know what the Hippocratic Oath is? Let me pull up the Hippocratic Oath. Let's
ask audience that's listening on YouTube, on Facebook, on Zoom. Do you guys know what the Hippocratic Oath is? So somebody says it's the doctor's oath, do no harm, Googling it. Ha! Somebody's Googling it. Ha 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 ha. Alfredo,
I'm going to save you to Google. I'm going to read it to you. I'm going to read you the Hippocratic Oath. Okay? Let me read it to you. This is the original Hippocratic Oath. It was pretty much codified by Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine.
The original hypocrite.
Right, so the father of modern medicine. So here we go. I swear by Apollo, physician, by Asclepius, by Hygeia, by Panacea. You don't know what these are? These are gods. Making them my witness that I will carry out, according to my ability and judgment, this oath and this indenture. Okay? To hold my teacher in this art equal to my own parents, meaning that the profession is supposed to be like a mother to you, or father, to make him partner in my livelihood like a spouse. When he is in need of money and share mine with him, to consider his family as my own brothers, and to teach them this art, if they want to learn it, without fee or indenture, to impart precept, oral instructions, and all other instructions to my own sons, the sons of my teacher, and to indentured pupils who have taken the physician's oath, but to nobody else. That's the original hypocrite comment was valid there, because really and truly, you're teaching it to everybody you like, but not really. Anyway, never mind. I will use treatment to help the sick according to my ability and judgment, but never with a view to doing injury or wrongdoing. Neither will I administer poison to anybody when asked to do so, nor will I suggest such a course. Similarly, I will not give to a woman a pessary to cause abortion, but I will keep pure and holy both my life and my art. I will not use the knife, not even verily on sufferers from stone, but I will give place to such as are craftsmen therein. I will go through this. Into whatsoever houses I enter, let me translate that into normal English. Whichever house that I go into, I will enter to help the sick, and I will abstain from intentional wrongdoing and harm, especially from abusing the bodies of man or woman. For those of you out there who cross that line, bond or free, and whatsoever I shall see or hear in the course of my profession, as well as outside my profession, in my intercourse with men, not intercourse as in sexual intercourse with men, but my dealings with men, I will never divulge holding such to be holy secrets. Now I carry out this oath and break it not. May I gain forever reputation among all men for my life and for my art. But if I break it and forswear myself, may the opposite befall me. Now let me explain what he is saying. Quite simply put, I'm not going to hurt anyone in any way. I'm not going to give any poison to anyone. I'm not going to force anyone to take my care. I am not going to do anyone any kind of harm. Tricking somebody by making them sign a document that they don't know the contents of would be doing them some harm. Let me ask you a question, because we had this discussion, Andrew. If I gave you an 880-page contract to sign, would you sign it?
No, no, not without several other people in the knowing going over after I've read it and made notes.
Yeah, well, how many people in this audience right now, those of you who went to the phone company, your cell phone plan, the car dealership, What else can I think of? At the dentist,
Home loan.
a home loan, anything from the bank. How many of you read that document?
Most of them, none of them. They read the title and the first paragraph and said, "Where do I sign?"
Because somebody gave you the summary of what's in the document and you didn't read it. Okay, let me explain something to you. You need to be more vigilant. If you are listening to this broadcast, you need to be more vigilant. I came prepared to this broadcast to give you all as much information as you guys are going to need. Okay? I came prepared to give you all as much information as you guys are going to need, because really and truly, a lot of people do not read. And that's a problem.
Right. Because they're put into a high pressure situation where a contract is put in front of them. They don't have an opportunity to seek counsel. They're basically saying, sign now or no service.
This is true. But let's put it this way. Let me put it another way. If you are bleeding right now, and you're bleeding out, Andrew, and I bring you this 880-page document, you could go ahead and read it. It's not a problem.
I know.
You can go ahead and read whatever you need to read, right? I'll just sit here and wait. This is what it is coming down to for a lot of people. Okay.
So there are a lot of things that people don't realize. Like we have international laws that we are all binded to that stop people from doing certain things and stop hospitals from doing certain things, that they take away your rights, rules, and privileges all the time, especially in the medical community, where they basically say we can do anything we want to you and your body, and you'll never have a chance of getting reprieve. You can't, if somebody is saying you can't even negotiate contracts with a bank. Unfortunately, you can. If they send you a blank contract for a credit card, this happened a number of years ago. A very unique British man who was a Russian specialist received a prepaid credit card that had a contract, and he rewrote the contract and sent it back to the bank, and the bank accepted it, and he put 50 grand on top of the card, and the bank tried to take it all back from him, and the actual British court accepted that was a binding contract because they sent him a blind contract and he sent it back to their automated system that didn't know what to do to it. Most people don't know the law when you can't negotiate a contract. When you're put under pressure to sign a contract, that's that mafia agreement, an offer you can't refuse with a gun.
By the way, that will nullify a contract. You see, there are certain exceptions in law which make no sense. As an example, one of the precepts of signing a contract is a contract cannot be entered in under duress.
Yep.
Does everybody know that? Does anybody?
Yeah. I'm going to test invalid, completely invalid immediately.
We need to test the audience knowledge of law. If you enter into a contract and it's under duress, then the contract is nullified. Now, the test for duress, I see everybody's like, have to prove duress though. The test for duress is the following. The usual test that they use for duress. I don't want to cite case law. The test for entering into duress is, were you in full knowledge of the facts? Okay. Were you told the facts in a manner which made it seem as a threat? Were you under some sort of threat? Did you feel that you had no choice? If you felt that you had no choice, the reasonable man will assume that you have been put under duress. Were you of sane mind and body? Were you drunk? Were you half drunk and they took your hand and they said, just sign this, and you sign this? These are all forms of putting people under duress, which nullify a contract. So if you are bleeding out at the corner of on the corner of the street, and I come to you, Andrew, with my 880-page document, and I say, could you sign this? You know you have limited time to sign that. That would be exactly what duress is. But what I am arguing is that, seriously speaking, if you tell somebody in a office, you have cancer, you have 6 weeks to live. Could you please sign this document because I want your firstborn? You cannot reasonably expect that that person in that instant will be operating with full capacity in mind. You just can't, because that person is facing their own mortality. Be very careful.
So we're at a point where so many people don't know their rights, don't know what's really going on. David and I present this information to educate you, but you also have to continue your own education. Okay? And some of the stuff David has said there is to incite you to instill a new motivation to be self-educated. And when Malia comes on, we're going to be talking about some stuff that you all may not want to hear when it comes from the medical industry, and definitely need to hear coming from the medical industry.
With regard to the rights of individuals, this is couched in many different ways. You see, law is not a very, everybody thinks that the law is this big, wide open area, okay? It actually isn't. It's actually a very narrow corridor that you fit into. Malia, the link has been sent to you, right? So it's actually a very narrow area that you fit into, okay? So a lot of people think that they have rights that they actually do not, and they have been steadily being taken away over a period of years, okay? It used to be, for instance, that you had the right to education, and a physician would actually sit down with you for 15 minutes or more and explain your situation to you. Nowadays, we have a new kind of concept where you have a physician seeing one person in one room, going to the next room and seeing another person in that room, and going to the next room and shuffling them out and rotating them out. Mm-hmm. And there's a depersonalization of care.
Yeah, total removing of any form of bedside manner or conversation or capacity to communicate to your person, so you give them the best possible care.
So Malia, you're here?
I am here.
Okay, so let's throw the ball to her.
So why don't you just introduce yourself to people, tell them your background, and then we're going to get into some of the thick of the conversation here.
Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Wholeness and balance, everyone. My name is Malia Kaleessi Maya. I use my first two names just for identification purposes. I've been in medicine since 1998. I've been very fortunate to be at the right hand and the right hip of many, many doctors in many specialties. You would say my love is medicine. I'm very privileged for the knowledge that I know that I can share and impart. Some of it, like David said, people don't like to hear, but it's one of these necessary evils, because remember, we live in a world of duality. So there's always a counterpart to what we believe in. My personal work, aside from medicine on the back burner, is I deal with a lot of quantum field knowledge. I deal with a lot of esoteric knowledge, because I believe that also comes into play with where we are at in this world. I do a lot of neuro-linguistic programming as well, a lot of mantra stuff and metaphysics, which is my second love. So I bridge all of that together with my medical knowledge. It served me very well. And I think I have got the call from the ancestors and the okay to step up my game. So here I am.
And on the education side, you're a physician's assistant, and you do a surgery rotation?
I'm a surgical tech and a medical assistant, possibly looking into doing a doctorate pretty soon. Basically what that is just that I'm in all phases of the office, especially on the clinical side. So the operating room is my playground. And as well as seeing my patients in the office together with my physician. Yeah.
Beautiful. So one of the reasons we wanted to bring you on is you're in the front line there. You're having to deal with the truths and fallacies of COVID-19. Yeah. And I want you to give it an opportunity for you to just speak in generality first of some of your experiences with COVID-19 and what's being presented to you from the alphabet groups.
Wow. Again, I bring in the concept of duality because I do have to separate my perception of what's going on in the real world, as opposed to what it is that is being fed and literally, the operative word I want to use, bombarded to my consciousness. On a personal note, I do not subscribe to this so-called pandemic. However, let's deal with what is on the external, which is what's being fed to us. So I'm dealing with patients who are very unconscious. And when I say that, I mean that in every sense of the word, unconscious to the point of there's no heightened level of awareness, even when it comes to their own health. I'm also having to deal with patients who are like pretty much robots that do exactly what they've been told without question, even though it is to their detriment. And my job as being one of these people on the front line is really to educate. That's my number one priority, is to educate and possibly make you look at something from a different perspective. But the system has it in place that if you don't follow these guidelines that they've imposed as part of their agenda and part of their system of control, there's also the backlash of that. So it's a field where I have to trod very carefully and at the same time keep myself safe and keep my auric field protected and my energy centers protected from what is in my world that doesn't appear to be none of the above. So
now that you've basically made your statement, now let's talk about some of the nuts and bolts of you experiencing COVID-19 cases. And I believe you're in the southern United States, correct?
Correct. South
Florida. So what has been your general experience with the actual COVID-19 cases? Some of the weird data that you have or haven't gotten from the alphabet groups? And what is it that you need to have valid understanding of this sickness?
Well, to be quite honest with you, I really have not seen in front of my own eyes someone with this virus that they're talking about. What I am going on when I am in the field on the front line is what's been the general consensus that's being explored by not only me, but also other members that I work with as well. I haven't seen really any data to physically support these views. I have been told, it has not been verified by me. I have been told that people are dying. I have not physically seen any bodies. And you know, Andrew, it's a very delicate situation. I am not one of these people to really succumb to everything that's been told to me and just jump on the wagon without investigation. I'm not wired like that. Mm-hmm. There's so much going on, and I have a different view because, you know, people always say, well, why don't you step outside the box? Well, for me, there's no box. How about that? There's no box. And I'm saying, how many people had the sniffles and wasn't feeling so great before this label of this COVID-19? I mean, I know of people who were not feeling great a couple weeks and months before, and they went to the drugstore, got themselves a Benadryl or whatever it is, and the next day they were up and running, no sweat. So I say this to say, has the investigation been done? Do we just run with what we've been told? Do we just accept? Are we that dumbed down as a society, as a culture, that we don't question what's being put in front of our faces, that we just suck it up? I mean, I'm clueless. And you will have let me play devil's advocate here for a second. You're going to have people who say that, you know, can't you see you're not, you know, are you not living on this planet? Yeah, I'm living on the planet, but I'm questioning where the source is. I'm questioning the source of this information. Where is it coming from? So the media houses are controlled by a selected few. I don't know if people are aware of that. They give you the information that they want to give you.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is we have to have a heightened sense of awareness. And before you begin to accept something as truth, I think it should be investigated. And that's where I stand with that. If you cannot show me, I am in medicine, and there is a branch of medicine called evidence-based medicine. Show it to me.
So they're not really showing in generality the data that you would expect that everyone in the healthcare facility should have already.
It's not up to my standard, Andrew.
I understand that, but they're still not giving you valid information when it comes to this COVID-19.
I am not seeing enough that sells me on that, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I'm not seeing enough because you have people who are running around here who are asymptomatic. They exhibit zero signs. When I say zero,
yes, zero.
Signs.
Right. And when somebody's asymptomatic and they're saying you could be asymptomatic for a month and still be a virus spreader.
Of course, and absolutely, because with the data that they're giving us all the irrelevant stuff that is not practical and it's not applicable to how we live our life. Mm-hmm. I question that stuff. Okay, so I'm saying to you, if somebody who's right there seeing what's going on, could it be it's a strain of the flu? I mean, how many of us have had this, And before this label came on board, how many of us had this and we didn't even know?
Right. When I was young, I had a version. I was like maybe 10 years old. I had a version of the flu called the Taiwanese flu, mm-hmm. where I ended up having 104 fever for 3 or 4 days. I was hallucinating, coughing. I didn't need to go to the hospital. I mean, my mom was close to taking me to the hospital, but as soon as the fever broke, she did take me to the hospital for 104 flu, and then they gave me some antibiotics right away. But yeah. I survived it, and I didn't need to go on a ventilator. Mm-hmm. And that was, 35 years ago that happened. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, people are on such a, you get the flu, you get an antibiotic. You get this, you get an antibiotic. And we have a scenario now where they want to put you right on a ventilator. Somebody in the chat room said, I went to my doctor and I said, I stubbed my toe. He says, you have COVID-19, put you on a ventilator now. That seems to be a level of, comical truth that's going on here. But the level of the media hype does say something is seriously wrong in Never Never Land here.
Right.
They're not telling us, they're not dispersing the data, and we do have a right. And David, I want to bring you in here to work with me on the rights of what we should be told from our government, our alphabet agencies, from top down.
I don't know. Why would you like to start? The Nuremberg Code?
Anywhere.
The Nuremberg Code on bioethics? Look, let me explain something to you. There are serious legal issues with regard to everything that has gone on and everything that I'm reading in the news. I'm reading a lot of stuff in the news which is incongruent with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I'm reading a lot of stuff that is incongruent with UNESCO's Nuremberg Code on bioethics. I went and researched them because I thought I was going mad, right? I mean, I went to law school. I have these things in my head. But I'm realizing that in an emergency situation, you can breach those every human right that is put out there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you what is actually said in these documents, because I've extracted them. I came prepared for this broadcast. All right, I'm going to read you what is actually said, and then you guys can make a judgment for yourself. On the concept of rushing a vaccine, let me read you Universal Declaration on Bioethics, right? This is not a binding document by any means, but it is used to inform the laws of every country, UNESCO. Article 6 says, on the concept of consent. Any preventative, diagnostic, and therapeutic medical intervention is only to be carried out with prior, free, and informed consent of the person concerned, based on adequate information. This consent should, where appropriate, be expressed and may be withdrawn by the person concerned at any time and for any reason without disadvantage or prejudice. Article 2 says, scientific research should only be carried out with the prior, free, express, and informed consent of the person concerned. The information should be adequate, provided in a comprehensible form, and should include modalities for withdrawal of consent. Consent may be withdrawn by any person concerned at any time and for any reason without any prejudice, disadvantage, or prejudice. Except that means that you can't harass somebody. By the way, let me just break that down for you. Exceptions to this principle should only be made in accordance with ethical and legal standards adopted by the states, consistent with the principles and provisions set forth in this declaration. In Article 27 of the International Human Rights Law, we're going to get into that later. In appropriate cases, research group or whatever community of persons, additional agreements or legal representatives of the group or community may be sought. What it is saying to you is that when you are talking about bio research, medical research, you need to have a protocol which says that everybody who is going to take that thing must be informed of everything concerning that thing. That's why you have these commercials, these drug commercials, where they said, you see these people who are having a wonderful time on TV. Yeah. They're playing with their yes. They're playing with their kids and so on. You see, I deal with this aspect. They're playing with the kids. And then you have 5 seconds in the commercial where they said side effects may include a whole list of certain things. And as I said in the last show, one of the side effects of certain drugs is sudden death. Well, that's not a side effect. That's the end of the line. Okay? That is the end of the line.
Or where the lawsuit begins.
All right? This is the end of the line. Sudden death is not a side effect. Sudden death is end game. That's it. We're done. Okay? This is the kind of things that I want to actually take into consideration. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Let me just go back and inform you guys of what it says. It's not very long. Article 3, everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person, which means don't put a needle in my arm if I don't want you to. Okay? Just listen. Article 9.
At Gitmo.
Yes, these are for the people out there who, I'm not for vaccinations or against vaccinations. I don't care about that part. Let's deal with the law, right? Mm-hmm. Right? International Declaration of Human Rights. The United States is a participant and a signatory to that document. So when you're talking about making mandatory vaccinations, you have to be very, very careful, huh?
Mm-hmm. Even though it's all over the world already, mandatory vaccinations from the local health commission to the local school boards that make it requirements to federal governments.
You see, I don't have a stake in this game one way or another. What I'm saying to you is that no one shall be subject to arbitrary arrest, detention, or exile. If I stop you for 15 seconds to put a needle in your arm, I'm violating Article 9 and Article 3. Mm-hmm. There's no way around that. There's no way around that.
Or to take your temperature.
Or to take your temperature. Article 12. Article 12. No one shall be subjected to arbitrary interference with his privacy, family, home, or correspondence, not to attack upon his honor and reputation. Right? Everyone has the right to protection of the law against such interference and attacks. Okay? Article 13. And we just keep going. I'm just putting it out there so that your audience, because I know how Facebook is, I know how YouTube is, they will try to suppress everything, but I'm not going to make a statement as to how I feel about it. I'm just going to put the information out there and let your audience decide.
David, could you real quick iterate to people where you can find this information, the website you're on?
Just about to say that.
You can just go to Wikipedia and do the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Every country who is in the United Nations has to sign that document. They have to adhere to that document. I want you to understand these things because you guys a lot of you live a very unconscious life when it comes to law, and I would like y'all to understand this concept. Okay? Article 13 states, everyone has the right to freedom of movement and residence within the borders of each state. Okay? Now, whereas you can enact an emergency order that restricts the movement in wartime, there is no precedent for what is happening right now. There is no precedent for it. Okay? Everyone has the right to leave any country, including his own, and return to his country. There's no precedent for what's happening right now. So you need to really get an idea of this. This is the Declaration of Human Rights. Everybody has the right of freedom of movement and residence within the borders of each state. Everyone has the right to leave any country, including his own, and return to his country. These are things that you need to actually know, people. Okay, like this kind of stuff you need to know. A lot of people walk around blindly and they don't know their rights. One of these days, we need to do a show on the rights of people and so on. Because honestly speaking, what I am seeing, there is no precedent for it. There hasn't been a precedent for it. I've spoken to other people who have been legally trained, who went to school with me, and we're like, we don't know what this is. We have no idea what this is. But we know, because we actually read those documents, that there's a problem, huh? There is a problem here. There is a certain extent upon which you can enact emergency orders in a state, and it is only used to avert a crisis, right? And when the crisis is over or is about to be over, you need to start breaking that emergency order, the powers of the government on. Right now, every government in the world who has enacted emergency provisions has complete power. Okay, I could read you documents from Caribbean nations, which says we have the right to sequester your house, right, your land, and your vehicle. If we need it, we can take it from you during this time. Y'all, look, this is something that you guys need to know about. Any more questions on that, Andrew?
No, I think you pretty much defined it there. And I want to bring Malia in to have her bring the next part in on that.
Yeah, I was actually taking some notes because David pretty much laid it out there. You know, I want to also instill in your listening audience, Andrew, this goes way back. This comes from history of the draconian system. I don't know how many people are even conscious on that level, because that's the kind of stuff I study. This whole check and balance system that's in the US, in this western part of the hemisphere, is all draconian related. Right. I don't know if draconian coming from the Knights Templar. This is the same template that's being implemented here. Yes. This is the agenda that's being bestowed on us. And what do? They prey on the ignorant and the weak. It is a type of programming. I don't know how else to render that information in a format where people can say, look, let me go ahead and research this. I want to touch on the fact that the programming is geared towards that. Our reptilian side of the brain, which is, of course, I'm in neurosurgery, so this appeals to my senses so much, because you have the left and the right side of the hemisphere. They know which part of the brain to instill these images that you see, these infomercials at 2 and 3 in the morning, when they know you're up at this time watching TV. It's programmed that way. This is a programmed system. They know what they're targeting. There's a direct influence on people who just don't have the knowledge. They don't have the knowledge.
And I want to say something here. And I want to say that because I know this broadcast will raise many hairs in certain places. Okay? So I just wanted to say it actually on the broadcast, Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I hope that Facebook robots and YouTube robots are listening. Everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. This right includes freedom to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers. I just needed to say that so that y'all know that. Y'all have the right to an opinion. Right.
Well, you know, it behooves me sometimes that when I see patients in my office, because I am the first person that they see aside from the receptionist, because I'm all clinical. These people have no clue what they're signing. There's so much in the fine print. There's so much that they are entitled to under the HIPAA Act that they don't even know that they're allowed to get a copy of their records. And if a doctor's office tell you no, that we cannot give you a copy, or that you're not allowed to, you actually have the right on a legal front to take action. But you see, how many of us, when we fill out our demographic information and your address, and, you know, it's just so funny to me how many people are so willing to put their email address on these forms. Do you know that your information can be sold to third parties? I don't know how people are just so willing and so free to give out your email address, email address.
Because the doctor's office holds a position of authority and they must do it. As an example, my mother and father do only what the doctor says to the letter of the law and will look nothing else, because they came from that era where you did what you were told.
Well, I'm so sorry, Andrew. You do have a choice.
I know you do. I tell them they have choices all the time, and they're like, no, we don't.
You don't have to. You don't even have to fill out your social security number, especially if you do have a
But the lady at the office says you have to fill it out if you want service.
She can have to all she wants. Where is your sovereignty?
I know this.
Where is your sovereignty?
If you want to visit your doctor, you have to fill the paperwork out. It's draconian back at you at that moment. Exactly. You know, it's forcing you to form the contract with them.
I get that. What I'm saying to you is, there have been many times. I'm a patient too. Let's not forget that now. I am a patient too. I go to the doctor to get my physicals. I call the shots on what the heck I get and what the heck I don't get. So if I say to you, I have a headache, a migraine that's been killing me because I've been up all night, and you want to take an x-ray of my foot, I'm going to tell you no.
Right.
It's that simple.
Right.
How does my foot, unless you're talking to me about a meridian here and there, and still I do have some basic knowledge about Chinese medicine. If I'm telling you I have a headache, why aren't you giving me an order for an MRI of my head?
Because they want that podiatrist to make some money in their medical system.
Okay, so
I have a medical story for you, because I deal with a lot of case law.
I'm not part of that pie. I'm sorry.
This is not funny, but it's kind of funny. So this guy checks into this hospital in the Caribbean, right? The hospital shall remain nameless. He's complaining that he has loose stools. He has diarrhea. Okay, so he checks in, and they prescribe a medication. So the next day it's getting worse, right? The day after that, it's a lot worse. And a whole week goes by, and this guy is literally going to the bathroom, and for what I'm going to say this, shitting himself to death. Okay? Right? So somewhere along the end of the week, and this is a real case, they figured out that they gave him a medication to loosen his stools when he walked. So for the whole week, he's getting medication. For the whole week, he's getting medication, right? That is literally making it. So this guy was a total wreck. He was this big when he left the hospital, okay?
Major dehydration. Dehydration there.
The insult did not stop there. He didn't stop there. The insult is that they charged him for the whole week in hospital and expected him to pay. But wait, there's more. when he discovered the error, they said to him, well, you know, Mr. X, you're dehydrated because of, you know, you've been pretty much going to the bathroom all week.
Yeah.
So we need to keep you to rehydrate you. So this guy said, no. I need to get out of here, which was the best decision he ever made. Yeah. He was so weak. Malia. They had to actually put him into a wheelchair and wheel him out of there.
Let me tell you, I have been, you know, listen, I am an advocate for right action and right information. And I always root for the underdog. This is me. This is why I stand in the face of adversity so much, even with some of the stuff that goes on around me. I am privy to so much information and privy to the language. Okay, his language again, which is one of the things I study, language being used by these physicians and these healthcare providers. And you have patients who absolutely don't know why they're in the hospital. They are totally clueless. I have patients who come to me with a Ziploc bags of medicine. And if I say to you, okay, Ms. Jones, why are you taking this again? You've been on this for a while. I don't know. Doctor told me I have to take it. No question as to how long. No question. Do you need to be on this for the rest of your life? You have to ask the questions. And for those of you on the line, I'm sure we have some outside of the US. The English British Westminster system is very, very different to that of the US. We have a managed care system here in the US, okay? And for those of us who don't know what that is, it's like oranges and apples, okay? And what I need for everyone to on the line, I need you to take back your sovereignty. You know, there are many times. Listen, my dad had surgery back in 2019. I took my happy behind down there because it's a Caribbean island. I took my happy behind down there to make sure that there were no screw ups, that he wasn't getting any medicines that is going to wreak havoc on his liver. People are so easy and just so gullible to just pop pills. Do you know your liver, that filtering organ, is the first organ that has to go through that process of breaking down those meds that you constantly pop? Do you know that that filtration system can get clogged just like your coffee filter? I mean, really and truly, I want people to understand this. My back hurts. Oh, let me go get some Motrin. Give me a break. Give me a break. How about something like an ice pack or a heating pad? Can we start with that? Mm-hmm. I mean, where is your sovereignty? Where is your power? And that's what I'm about. It's hacking into and harnessing your power to inform you and to make you make an educated decision even about your health. I'm very passionate about being responsible for your health because these vultures don't care.
Vultures.
Don't care.
Exactly. Vultures.
They don't care. They don't care. They don't care how you feel afterwards. I mean, I know of an office right now that is in the business of killing people. And
it's not the mortuary service.
It's not. And there was even a point that there's no room in the morgue. Okay, can I see some bodies? I mean, just what's up? Let's just keep it 100. There's no room in the morgue. Can I see some bodies? I'm sorry.
The answer is no, you can't see the bodies because they're not there in the place that you're at.
And somebody just commented, the kickbacks are ridiculous. And let me tell you how I know this for a fact. We have these, what you call pharmaceutical drug reps. They're part of that in-bed big pharma. And how they lure these doctors is that they come in with memberships to golf country clubs, and you get basically treated and you get awarded based on how many scripts you write for that particular drug. This is how it works. Okay? And there's now, back in the day, there was no system in place whereby You can write how many narcotics prescriptions you want, and there was no check back so that you can know how these people are doing with their prescriptions. Now there's a system called eForce, where a physician can actually go online and see, where did you fill that Xanax prescription? And you still have patients who are trying to rig the system by going from one pharmacy to another pharmacy to another pharmacy, but that eForce system governs everything. So now there's a little more crackdown and a little more regulation on these narcotics. It's crazy. So I'm saying not all physicians operate this way, but I'm saying the ultimate goal is in your hands as a patient. There's a lot of power that you have as a patient to harness your sovereignty. And first of all, if you have the flu and it's a virus and they give you a prescription for penicillin, hand it back to the doctor. Antibiotics do not work on viruses, period. If you're on birth control and you're taking antibiotics, that's going to lessen the efficacy of your birth control. So if you get pregnant, don't be surprised. You know, that's the kind of knowledge you need to know before you just jump on anything. And I get it, guys. I get it that these doctors are not going to be upfront and forthcoming with this information. I can go on and on and on about a particular birth control that's an injection that is geared towards infertility.
Pow!
You're not having babies. You're not having babies.
So what is the first step at claiming sovereignty? Which we've all talked before is self-education. So what are some of the primer areas that people need to begin their self-education? Because all too often people get all fired up. They walk into the doctor's office and they say, I have rights. And the person behind the counter says, no, you don't. Get the fuck out of the office. Mm-hmm. You want your service, sign the paper. Mm-hmm. That's what's going to be told to them. You're muted, David.
My straightforward answer to that for you, Andrew, is first of all, know what you're signing. First of all, ask questions. I don't care how flipping annoying you think you'll be. Oh, well, doctor, I don't want to bother you. Damn it, bother him. That is the reason why he went to med school. That's part of his training for those 100 years that he went to med school. That's his job. And if you have a doctor who's only going to spend 3 minutes with you in the room and you've been waiting for him for 3 hours, you probably need to find another doctor. Ask questions. I have a problem. And every time I educate my patients, I always say, Ms. Jones, any questions for me? Because if I don't, I'm not saying that I have all the answers, but I'm around these doctors enough that
you know the shenanigans.
I can step into the room and say, you know, you gave Miss Jones so-and-so, and she said she never had it before. And just, you know, because of this condition that she has, should she look at? I am the liaison between the patient and the doctor. That's where I come in. But 90% of my job as an assistant is patient education. And if you're not asking the questions, that's why I had to go down to my dad, because he doesn't know the language. See?
I would like to jump in here on the legal front. Here are the things, for those of you who were listening earlier on. Here are your rights, and this is what you can do. Okay, from a rights position, we've already gone through the patient bill of rights. You have the right to be informed. You have the right to be educated. So if a doctor says a word to you, it's nice, it's fancy, there's a whole bunch of Latin. All right, so what does this mean? What does this mean? And he has to answer you. He can't say, well, I have another patient, get out. He can't say that. Is this a matter of law, right? If it is that, also for those of you who have been in hospitals and have had the typical horrible nurse who doesn't give a shit about you, we've had some horror stories in law. People who asked the nurse for a glass of water and the nurse left them and let them soil themselves and stuff like that. Malia, you must have heard about these stories, especially in certain countries where the nurse is actually spiteful against the patients. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let me explain to you that.
Or the doctors performing surgeries that are completely unnecessary without consent from the patient who's under anesthesia.
Hello.
Every medical facility has some sort of quota that they would like to get filled. All right. So on the concept of diabetes, as an example, which is one of the typical things that you get an operation out of. I'm sorry, is that a cut on your foot? We will have to take the foot. Look, there's a problem. There's a serious problem with the medical system and the medical fraternity as it is. There's a bit of a disease going on. And I'm not just saying this off the top of my head because David has an opinion. I read the cases. That come down, and some of them, like the one I told you earlier on, are just amazingly wrong, right? So what can you do? Malia was speaking about sovereignty earlier on, okay? You have the right as a sovereign being to make a decision. If you are in a doctor's office and you say, I don't want to give you this information, and they say, well, you can't see a doctor unless you give me this information. Well, no, I can see a doctor. And if you refuse to let me see a doctor, I'm going to put in a call to whatever medical board that you belong to. Listen to this very carefully. I am going to put in a call to whatever medical board that is overseeing your area. Okay? So this can go all the way up to the AMA, American Medical Association in the US, right? It can go all the way up to the AMA. And at the very least, you will be made very uncomfortable, and you will have to take time off of your golf course activities to sit in front of a board and explain to them why you did not tell me or why you did not see me, at the very least. So please stop with this concept that y'all are helpless in this situation, because you guys are not helpless.
You know, I want to just add something here, David, because what you're saying is so, so important. And I also want to give the power back to the people in terms of somebody's asking, does this apply to Australia? You would have to find out what laws govern.
I can pretty much tell you, yes, it does. It does.
Okay, so David is saying yes. Okay, so I was saying that this is what I want to put the power back into your hands. Guys, do you know you can actually look up your physician? You can actually do a search on his background to see if his license has even been revoked or has even been reinstated. I do that. And hey, listen, there's no privacy with them because they have to give their full name in their practice. Okay, you do have the power. And that's what I'm saying. David says you will be uncomfortable. The fire is worth it, I think, right? So if it has to do anything with your health, I say stand in it. You got to sucker up, get some balls, and stand in the fire and do what needs to be done. It's that simple. And I'm just tired of us being so ignorant and using the excuse, oh, I didn't know. This is the age of science and technology. All right, this is the age of science and technology. I have a zero tolerance policy for you telling me you didn't know. Google is there, Uncle YouTube is there, okay? Auntie Google is there, you name it. Why not use them?
Correct.
Why not use them? You do have the power. You can look up your physician. You can look up where he went to school. You can look up where he did his training. You have questions, and by right, they're supposed to display their certificates in the office in a very auspicious place, okay, so that it can be seen. All right? Much to the effect that if you want to dive a little deeper, which is what I do, because this is just paperwork. I mean, I'm sure I can make a certificate like that, you know? I can dive a little deeper and really research what needs to be done. But ultimately, there is power for you as a patient. I had my surgery a few years ago, and I called all the shots from the anesthesiologist to the point that I asked what was in the cocktail that was being given to me so that I can sleep, so I can go into the cosmos, into my consciousness, and come back. And I had to say to the anesthesiologist, I mean, it's funny, but I said, look, you taking me out, you had better be there to bring me back. And for once in my life, I was on the opposite side of things. Okay? A very serious abdominal surgery that I could have had umpteen milligrams of morphine, and I chose not to because I know what that stuff does to me. It made me sicker than when I went in for the operation. And I said no. So you have to arm yourself. You have to arm your consciousness with knowledge. And you have to ask questions. That's where it all starts. You need to ask questions. They put you on thyroid medicine, my ladies. They put you on this thyroid medicine, levothyroxine or whatever it is. Ask how long you need to be on that. Maybe you have to change your diet. And can I just tell you, it's all in the food.
I want to say something here because a lot of people don't understand why somebody would actually be passionate about something like that. And I have to say that both Malia and I we lost two people actually, mutual to us. We lost two people actually mutual to us because of lack of information as well. Okay, so let me explain something to you. This is not a question of you go to a doctor and you have nothing and you don't want to be difficult or whatever else. You might die. Let's get this clear. You might die. So if you are not brave enough to research, if you're not brave enough to question, then you assume the responsibility that you might die, and nobody is going to have an argument in your defense because you're not going to be around to defend yourself. I am telling you this right now. Okay? Be very careful. Be very careful when it is that you're dealing with issues concerning your health. Okay? You ask. There are actually sites that rate doctors now.
Yes.
I'm told.
Yes.
So I want to pop in here and flip the frequency just a little bit and talk about the spineless doctors who won't stand up to the background system that's telling them how to be doctors. Because doctors are educated and they already know what's going on. And for them to say that they don't is an ignorant statement back to us. They know that the healthcare system being is run and it's not applying the Hippocratic Oath. What can we do to help doctors to get out of this fucked up scenario?
Can I just be honest? Nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
No. I know what can be done. You know what the acid test is?
Yes.
When a doctor becomes a patient and he's like, no, don't put that in me. I'm not taking this. I'm not taking this. It's hilarious. It's hilarious to look at, right? It's when a doctor becomes a patient and then you really see. All right? It's only when you really see, because I have had medical professionals of mine who've had first stage cancer, and they're like, I'm definitely not doing this, that, and that. Okay. I've had medical professionals. So if you are not doing it, why did you prescribe it for your patients? Why?
It's called profit. It's called gain. It's called and not to mention, they make you sign your life away before even getting on that treatment. Okay? It's called Big Pharma. It's called being in bed with Big Pharma. And they have, again, I want to let you know, this is all stemming from this draconian system. And guys, do the research, read. I need y'all to read, especially for people of my ilk. People of my ilk, the reason why they're allowed to get away with this kind of behavior is because they know we don't read. So there was an actual saying that said, if you want to hide something from people, just put it in a book. Why? Because they don't read. They don't read.
Put it right in front of them and they'll never read it.
They don't read.
That was hilarious.
You know, and I gotta tell you that kind of programming, and I wanna emphasize that to you because I study a lot of metaphysics and I study a lot of neurolinguistic programming having to do with how this organ that governs your being is in charge of you. This thing they call the brain, this thing they call your nervous system is the boss of you. And so you have a full universe inside you that is actually operating on the back burner that you're not even conscious of that. Okay, so I want to say to you, this is where that programming comes in. It's called being in bed, and the profit and the gain from what these people, hey, look, they have enough, they have a lot of overhead to pay out, accounts payable, and they have a lot of staff that they need to pay. Okay, so the income, just listen to the language of the word income, right? Has to be sufficient enough to cover the overhead by any means necessary. That includes any other, you have doctors now who are going into subspecialties. Can I just tell you, like you have an internist who is AKA your primary care doctor, who is now doing a little pulmonology on the side, who's doing a little cardiology on the side. They have a subspecialty to supplement the primary practice, which is what they're doing if it's primary care. You know, I have 10 years of knowledge in primary care. I know how that practice works. You know what I mean?
That's that I want to say here. And I'm going to give a little defense to the average person. And the defense is, in law and in medicine, two very important fields, correct? I know that you pay for what you don't know. Okay? So it is not in my best interest for you to know anything. So the law tells me that I have to tell you stuff. Okay? But it didn't tell me how I have to tell you stuff. So if I tell you that you have a hematoma, and I put a distal of, I don't know, right? Of some technical word. If I tell you that habeas corpus is now not in effect, and you're like, okay, well, if habeas corpus is not in effect, it's not in effect. What does that mean? Right? Let me explain to you what I just said. Hematoma means you're gonna die. Okay, eventually. Okay. If I tell you habeas corpus is now no longer in effect, and I say it to you as a person, you look at me and you this little question mark, and you're like, okay, fine. But you don't question what the hell that is. It means I can arrest you. Like,
and then habeas corpus means produce the body.
Yes.
In a murder case, where's the body?
I can put you in jail without any kind of trial. But what the point I am making here is, if I couch what I'm saying to you in enough language, this is what these people are having a problem with, you know, Malia, Andrew. This is what they're having a problem with. Right. You tell them to go read, but the official sources have this thing so difficult and written so difficult that people can't break it down. Malia, you, yourself, myself, Andrew, you would know there's a special course called medical terminology. I had to do it. I had to do physiology and anatomy as well. There's a particular course, medical terminology, which means these are the terms we're using. Everybody who's in our club, get on board.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I do want to say, Andrew, I do want to add to that is, keep in mind, right? These practices and these doctors have a legal team in place that they give a retainer to review these documents. And if you decide that you're going to go the legal front of them, these guys are paid to comb through these languages. Because the medical language, even though it is English, is written in medical linguistic terms not for the average person. So hence the reason why I say to you, I went down there to oversee the documents of my father and what he's signing, and to oversee what they're giving him for aftercare. And I have to make sure, and there were some prescriptions that they gave him. I'm like, Dad, you don't have heartburn. Why are they giving you this drug? You don't have heartburn. I mean, what? And I did not fill it. I did not fill that prescription for him. So again, They're in place and they're there for the doctors. They don't give a damn about you as the patient. I'm just being honest with you. I'm on the front line, and this is what I'm seeing all the time. They don't care. It's plain and simple.
As long as you pay.
As long as they collect that copay, as long as they send in that claim to the insurance companies. That's why now the insurance companies are putting the responsibility back on the patient. And what do I mean by that is that if you don't read that fine print and you say, well, I didn't opt for this, so I didn't opt for that. Well, you signed these initial documents when you came in as a new patient saying—
Would you like to know what else is wrong here?
You're giving us permission to contact Dr. XYZ and so. I'm sorry, I didn't. And there's nothing that you had, there's no recourse because you've put your name on that dotted line. Again, I want to say to my 204 people in the chat and 46 people participating, read what you're signing. I'm a stickler for my signature. You can't just get my signature like that. No, bro. It don't work. It don't jive that way. You can't even get my email address like that.
You know, the other thing that is a real problem in healthcare right now, and I need to actually call it out for what it is. Now, you have a bunch of businessmen becoming the heads of health systems. I went to my MBAs in the management of healthcare systems. I should not theoretically manage a hospital unless I have some medical training, theoretically. And I should not manage a hospital unless I am a decent human being that cares about people and have compassion. Theoretically, that's what should happen. Okay, Andrew? But let me explain to you what has happened. We have a bunch of businessmen who are running health systems, and that makes the situation worse. Businessmen and lawyers should not run health systems, okay? Because Malia is on the front line. Let me tell you how this works, okay, Malia? Because I think you would know it because you've seen it firsthand.
I do have a master's in healthcare administration, so I'm pretty.
Yeah. So I run your hospital, and I see that on a certain ward, because it's figures to me, it's not people, it's figures. I see on a certain ward that there's a higher mortality rate. It's making my hospital look bad. I'm going to cancel that whole ward. Because the money that I lose with bad public relations, I can gain by closing it down, opening another specialty ward somewhere and charging people more money. Okay? All the people who were on that ward now need to relocate and find somewhere else to get healthcare. This example I just brought off the top of my head is a real example. It's a real case study that has happened. Okay? I also want you guys to research Mid-Staffordshire incident. A whole bunch of patients dead. You went in there and you were dead. Okay? That was in England under the NHS. That was an NHS case. It was horrible. Okay? People went in and they died. And they didn't die for what they went in from. They died from MRSA. They died from all sorts of infections that they got while they were there. The level of care was so bad. Okay? So the reason why the level of care was so bad was because some bright MBA decided to prioritize a certain section of the hospital and not the other section. Guess which section of the hospital got prioritized? The section of the hospital that paid more money, that made more income. In the last show that we had, Andrew, I said, how much is your life worth? Because I can tell you, if I look at the health system that you are in, the exact figure, the exact dollar amount that your life is worth. Okay? If you are in hospital, I can make an aggregate summation, an analysis of how much your life is worth in that hospital. There is a dollar amount that your life is worth. How much is your health worth? To you, there's no money that could pay for your health. But to somebody running a health system, no, that's not true. Your life may be worth, on average, $200. That's how much your life is worth.
Well, I want to be... I'm sorry, David, go ahead.
Right? your life is worth $200. And I say that quite simply put, because I'm taking into consideration the triage process just coming in. And that's where it stops. That's where healthcare stops. You pay for everything else, especially if you're in the US, right? And for the people in Canada who think, well, we have free healthcare and we have like a, so every time I speak to Canadians about the healthcare system, it's usually a case of like, y'all have a wonderful healthcare system. It's a wonderful concept that you guys have, that everybody gets free healthcare. You are still paying for the healthcare. You stop thinking you get free healthcare.
Yes.
Okay. The reason why your taxes are structured in that way is because you're paying for the healthcare.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Here's the problem with a healthcare system like that. Doctors take advantage of that healthcare system.
Yes.
So I'm sorry. You walk into my office, right? I noticed that your hair is shorter, but I got a haircut. No, I'll have to prescribe something for that.
Yeah, and it's a sad situation. It really is a sad situation. I cannot even begin to tell you some of the, if I didn't have this knowledge in even going down and looking at my parents and looking at what it is that they were on, even my grandmother who died at, she was, how old was Granny? Over 100 years old. You know what I mean? And just to have the wherewithal to say, nope, Nana, you don't need that anymore. Nope, you don't need to take that anymore. Nope. I mean, why would you put a 92-year-old under a bone marrow? 92 years old under a bone marrow, and she's only what, iron deficient? 92 years old.
Yeah.
It's called profit. It's a dollar cap on your head. Andrew, if you go into the emergency room and you meet me there, before you meet me, and I am your assistant, I'm doing all the pre-stuff before we actually take you into the back, they're going to collect your driver's license and your insurance card. And now we have the ability to verify your insurance and your eligibility online.
Yeah.
All right.
As well as limit some of your care based off of what you can.
Absolutely. And God forbid you do not have insurance, there's going to be someone with a little cart coming in to see you who's going to formulate some kind of payment plan or install arrangement of some astronomical monthly fees that you probably can't pay because you got kids to feed, you got school fees to pay, you got the lights to keep on. I mean, it's really a charlatan type system. I hate to say it. And we have leaders at the helm who do not show any compassion at all for the patient. Like I say, I root for the underdog. I root for the one who doesn't have anything.
We're at a point where we've discussed so much about personal sovereignty, personal education. We cannot impart to the audience more, it's up to you to educate. It's up to you to go, I need to be educated, so when I'm in my doctor's office, I could talk about X, X, or X. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, go ahead. The ball's in everyone's court to begin self-education, especially under some of the crazy shit that's going down with COVID-19 now.
Guys, for those of you, I'm going to give you a few suggestions. Medics Online in Canada offers a brief course in medical terminology. It's very cheap. You have Udemy. You could go to Udemy, you could go to Medics Online, and for fairly inexpensive, you could learn how to read your own X-ray at least. Okay? Right? Nobody should be saying stuff to you that you don't know. So Medics Online, you have ICs, I believe, does that in the US. Penn Foster does that as well, right? These are sources that you can go to. Failing that, go to a software store or whatever else, and just simply start the process. You live in this, as Malia would be keen to say, this meat bag. Get to know it a little bit more. Get to know what the systems are, what goes wrong with it. Because there's only one thing that is for certain. None of us is getting out of this life alive. No, none of us are. So at some point in time, something will go wrong. And you need to be able to at least know what is going wrong with you so that you can make informed choices, huh? Okay.
Andrew, I want to, with your permission, I would just like to give a brief list of some pathologies. I just want people
Yes. Go right ahead.
Just hone in on these basic things, because that's the basic that comes through my office, through my door every single day. Okay, so I'm going to give people just a chance just to get something to write on, because I'm going to run through a few of these. Since I deal with them so much, they're actually stuck in my subconscious and occupying some space there. So people can actually start to research. So while you do that, let me say this. For those of you in the chat, and for those of you who are participating, if you are taking any kind of prescription drug, I need you to know why you're taking it. I need you to monitor yourself a little bit more and see if it is actually working for you. And that includes, but not limited to, what you call vitamins. Because I have someone right now around me who's popping these gummy vitamins. And I said to her, do you feel any different when you don't take them? And her response to me was no. I said, so why take them? Why put your liver through that stress? Because everything that goes in orally, meaning through your mouth, has to go through the liver. And the liver is the main filtering organ. It's the main detox organ in the body. So if you pop in these Motrins and these Xanaxes, it goes through the liver. Then you want to know 15, 20 years later down the road why you have fatty liver. We can talk about that. Okay, so here we go with a list of, if you are, here's some pathologies. The first one that's very common, hypertension. Hypertension is a nice big fancy word for high blood pressure. And there's also hypotension, PO, meaning low blood pressure. Now, I just want to clarify something, because people will say, well, yeah, I got hypotension. You don't want neither. Hypotension, which is low blood pressure, hypertension, which is high blood pressure, is equally fatal. You want to find yourself right down in the middle. It's called balance. It's called optimal health. So if you think having low blood pressure puts you in the green area, it actually does not. You don't want either. So hypertension, hypotension. The other popular one on my list is diabetes. It's called diabetes mellitus. Type 1, mainly insulin dependent people, meaning you have to inject yourself with insulin. And type 2, it's managed with medicine. The other one I want you to look into is something called hyperlipidemia. Hyperlipidemia is a nice big fancy word for high or elevated cholesterol levels. My bread people, my pasta people, my Alfredo sauce people. Believe it or not, seafood can raise your cholesterol level. You gotta be less than 200 in your total ratio for you to be considered healthy. So I had a lady who was 659. If I just told you that the normal range is less than 200, she's 659. You know what I was able to write an order for her for? To go and get a cardiac stress test. Well, guess what? She's 92% occluded in her arteries, meaning that they're blocked. Aside from her being overweight, she also has other issues. All right, so hyperlipidemia. The other one I want you to look into is fibromyalgia, which has to do with painful muscles, even to the touch. Sometimes people with fibromyalgia cannot even get a massage because it's so painful. I mean, something like massages that people enjoy so much, someone with fibromyalgia does not enjoy that. The other disease I want you to look into is Graves' disease, which is a thyroid dysfunction. And the physician who is responsible that governs most of that is called an endocrinologist. An endocrinologist deals with hormones and glands, as well as also dealing with the pancreas for the diabetes people, but you have a primary care doctor who oversees your care. Okay? These are some things I really need you all to look into, because that is on the front line of what I deal with and have to write orders for to these diagnostic centers every single day. This is part of my job. Okay, so I don't want you to be lapsed and to be lazy, because some of us are lazy. We don't even want to take responsibility for our own daggone health. And you want to know why there are rabbits in your stomach. There's bacteria in your stomach that's just eating the food you eat, and they just continue to live. It's like a party going on down in your stomach. They're like, oh, dang, she's eating again. Oh boy, this is good. Barbecue chicken.
They're liming and having a fat inside your intestinal cavity.
I mean, they're just living it up, because guess what? There's an old adage saying that says, if you want to kill a virus, starve them, meaning you don't eat so that they eat. And I always tell people, if you want to use that approach, I'm all good for that, but also let's balance that out. You see, that's one of my words, sovereignty. Balance that out by keeping your electrolytes up and staying hydrated if you're not going to be eating food. Guys, there's so many things you can do. Like I say, you have that power. You have sovereignty over your health. You have sovereignty over this meat suit this is your vehicle while you're on this third dimension. This is your vehicle. So take care of it the best way that you can, so that when you leave this meat suit, you can progress to the other realms uninhibited. Hello.
I want to say something here, because a lot has been said about the healthcare system and so on. The best scenario is to actually not get there in the first place. So that would mean you don't have to be like an Olympic athlete, but exercise would be a very good option. And from the nutrition aspect, there's so much conflicting information with regard to nutrition. If you guys are depending on the internet for nutrition advice, don't. From the time somebody speaks to me and tells me I am on a diet, I am a nutritionist as well. I usually go into this state where I'm like, I wonder which diet this one is. So any diet that requires you to starve yourself.
Hello.
Any diet that requires you to starve yourself, get off that diet.
We shall remain nameless.
Vanity will kill it will kill a lot of people. It has killed a lot of people. Stop this vanity nonsense. If you don't like the way you look, get into a gym. You get to meet other people. People speak to you. You speak to them. You get to learn stuff. If you don't like the way you look, but you should be satisfied with the way you look. And one of the things that is a very important principle in Hatha Yoga is Santosha, contentment. Mm-hmm. Be okay in your skin. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Be okay in your skin. That's funny from Koji. The gym is closed down. Yeah, but the floor is there, isn't it?
Yes.
All right? The floor is definitely there. The floor is there. So get down on the floor and drop and give me 20. Okay. Right?
I know some people are very upset right now in this COVID climate because they have to cook, because the restaurants are now closed and they are pissed off. Let me just let you know. Okay? Running down to, what do we have here? Popeye's Chicken, going to Popeye's Chicken, KFC, Pollo Tropical, and getting a fast food. I mean, and now you have to stand in your kitchen and season some food for you. You got to probably make you a salad of some tangerines and some pecans in there. I tell you, people are just like livid. Okay, this does not fool me. This is what my friend said. Malia, this isn't working. I said, okay.
Stomach is a muscle.
I said, don't have a connection. Don't go crazy. I said, there's 101 I mean, she just went off the deep end when she saw this big bowl of salad that I had making. She's like, that's not going to do anything for me. But she's so trained. Again, another word I want you to put into your subconscious is the programming. The programming. And I want people to know there's no money in you being healthy. There's no money in you being healthy.
No, there is money in that being healthy. I'd like to, there's money. They get to keep their money. You mean
the physicians?
The companies?
Yes. There's no.
They get to keep their money.
Exactly. There's no, you have to be sick so that the business can be maintained. But like I said, if you understand, Andrew, if you understand your sovereignty as a spiritual being on this planet, operating this modus operandi, this meat suit, when it's time to exit this meat suit, you want to have such a level of awareness, but also maintaining you while you're on this 3D dimension so that you can be apt enough to make sound decisions on your health. If the doctor is saying something to you that you don't understand, you are at liberty to say, Doc, I'm sorry, can you break that down for me some more? Because obviously you did not go to med school. You didn't go to med school. So ask for an explanation. That is where you start. Even just asking starts to harness your sovereignty and your power. If you don't ask, how the heck are you going to know? And you sure as hell not going to assume, because you know what they say about assuming, right? So you have to be very, very careful. You need to start asking questions. Those of you who have a medicine cabinet at home, go in that medicine cabinet and really look to see if you are taking some Nexium over-the-counter pills. Can you probably maybe just tune down on the spicy food for a minute? I'm just saying. If you are popping Prilosec, which is now available over the counter, OTC, can you just probably maybe not so much spicy food and just, the jalapeno peppers and the hot sauce, and can we just kind of that part.
Or maybe do a candida cleanse.
Maybe do a candida cleanse. And those of you who don't know, candida is yeast. Now, I'm not saying yeast is bad, everything in moderation, because an overgrowth of yeast, now you start to be functified in certain orifices of the body.
Mm-hmm.
Things start to smell a little because now the bacteria is an overgrowth. And you're on my table, right?
Oh, no.
Okay, so let's just be real. Some of us like that spicy food. Can we just tone down the spicy food a little bit? Some of us love, and I want to tell my steak eaters out there, my people who love them some steak, because I operate and I'm in there and I know what it is like when I open a cavity and I know what I see. For my people who love meats and steaks, do you know when you eat a steak, it stays in your digestive pouch, your stomach, for at least 7 to 9 days before it dissolves into your bloodstream? Are you aware of that?
The cow strikes back.
I'm just putting that out there. Those of you who love your T-bone steak and your New York sirloin, I'm just letting you know. Yeah? Mm-hmm. That steak sits in your pouch for at least 7 days before it's fully broken down and turns into chyme. So just keep that in mind, okay? There are so many things we can do to take back. Yes, you need protein, I understand that, but there's nuts, there's grains, okay? There are 101 things that have other sorts, dark green leafy vegetables, okay? And I guarantee you take you a nice week, 7 days a week of just a small portion of salad, you'll be on your throne gladly, and your stomach will thank you for it.
Maybe what we could do is have an actual nutrition and dietary show and teach people some lessons to cook. Maybe, David, we could do that on one of another Tuesday shows coming up.
Awesome.
and
That would be
really
great.
educate people on nutritional processes and cooking and some of the other choices that are out there.
Mm-hmm. And I also like to add on that, Andrew, the use of herbs.
Yes.
You know,
Correct.
the use of herbs, because something as common as apple cider vinegar, if you don't have that in your kitchen cabinet, and you should be putting that on your salad as opposed to dousing your salad with salt. And if you are going to use salt, sea salt. And for my people who are hypertensive, meaning that you have high blood pressure, you need to limit your salt intake. Himalayan salt, Himalayan pink salt, which is what the Indians use, especially in the Hindu tradition, that's part of the paprika spices. That's what they use in their food for a little flavor every now and then. Yes,
wonderful. So we're nearing the end of the show. Malia, you want to give a way for people to get a hold of you if they want to contact you?
Oh, yeah. You can find me at maliakaleessi.com. I am in the process of revamping the site. I'm going to be putting some mentoring options on there. I deal, again, with a lot of quantum physics, a lot of metaphysics, a lot of neurology stuff, dealing with the brain, the left and the right brain, and also manifestation and mantras. So I'm working a lot with sound and the dynamics of sound and how you can use sound to manifest the world and the universe that you want, and not what is being projected to you. Because the fact of the matter is, you don't have to accept this COVID madness. You don't have to accept that. I don't care what's in front of you. The trick here is to deny it. Because that's what I keep saying to people. There's no COVID virus in here, because guess what? It's not in my consciousness.
Well
it's
said.
that simple. It's that simple.
Well said.
So when I need to go into the supermarket and they have all these things being implemented and whatever, I go in there with a mind that I am shielded from all of that, because I don't subscribe to that mentality. Okay, so that's where you're at. It's all about what's in your consciousness. Your thoughts literally create your reality. Okay? You can also get me at Twitter as well, at Malia Kaleessi, Instagram at Malia Kaleessi. And Andrew, I just want to say, I will be launching my first podcast most likely May 7th. It's a Thursday. It's a Jupiter day. If you know the cosmic energy of the planets and the planetary movements, it's a day of Jupiter is an expansive planet. So I'm taking advantage of that. It's called Mining for Gold. And there's a whole dynamic behind that title that was revealed to me by my ancestors. So I'm very excited about that. And I will be in touch with you, Andrew, as well for that. I'm in the process of putting up the Facebook page and taking it from there. But I do want to say, Andrew, I thank you so much. This has been a joy for me. And I want to say to your audience, please don't misinterpret my passion for anything else. I'm on the front line. I'm as brutally honest as I can. And the only reason I possess this kind of passion is because I am in awe and in honor of my ancestors. They're first and foremost for me, and they're the reason why I can speak the way that I do, because of the knowledge that has been imparted to me. So I say, while I'm closing off, we give thanks for the ancestors who's in our DNA, is in that double helix in our bodies. They're always with us. And I also want to extend my love and my honor to David as well. Andrew, you as well. And I hope we can move forward in the future. I love this platform. And Andrew, you have something going here. And there's an offering for you at the altar tonight. So you can best believe that.
Thank you so much. We stand on the shoulders of our ancestors. David, do you want to give a way for people to get a hold of you? Any last words also?
Last words, that sounds so final. It's like I'm on my last dying breath. Okay, so no.
Here's the contract.
I'll be here again. I will be here again. Look, listen, guys, take care of yourselves. I want to see you here on the next show. I want to thank you for actually listening to me. I hope you guys got something from this. You can contact me at info@unifiedhealthsystems.com. Otherwise, I will see you guys. Because it's like we don't have anything better to do, right? We're on lockdown.
We're on lockdown.
Let me see you guys later.
Alrighty, everyone. We'll be here this coming Thursday for the next show. Go ahead and check us out on Facebook and YouTube for all the videos that we've been putting out. We're putting out extra amount of content. Remember to like and share these videos, everyone. Take us away, Robert.
Bye.
Each different bubble of reality is true. A galactic historian is a person that looks at all the lines of dramatic karma. Nudge, nudge. It's the Holy Grail. Improvise. Mysterious. It's counter psychic intelligence.
Why is DNA farming of this star cluster so important?
Because we do manifest our reality. We do create our reality. Hello, let's create, let's co-create, and let's change this world with love. No matter if you're from Alpha Centauri or Earth, we all began with the same birthing process. We live in a limited point of view. Living the mystical life daily is about striving for the unlimited point of view. Each day, each human being gets an infinite amount of choices. Living the mystical life daily is about facing obstacles and challenges. The level of awareness that you are working at means you have a responsibility to be equal with it. How does one truly let go of expectation? You can make the moment that you wake up to the moment you go to sleep sacred. The keys to success: choice, 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 and choice.